Real estate did not happen to me by design. I used to be in a completely different sector. I had graduated in Russian literature. I have never pushed people beyond a point, whether it's clients or teams or other people. I think it works.
You need to be aggressive and you got to push the client no matter what it happens like that.
Right.
But this is also another way of...
Right. So we are a leading global real estate consulting firm. We originated in 1855. It's about 160 years, more than 160 years now. And we are headquartered in UK and listed on London Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Clearly, there is a preference for bigger sized
sized.
homes. So earlier, people would be, as a first home, they would be happier starting with a two bedroom. Yeah, one bedroom concept doesn't exist, at least in North India, but a two bedroom would work. But now there is a conscious sort of, by design, people want to look at a 3-bedroom, which can allow them some space for. People would continue to see quality. Now quality is not only about what kind of flooring and what kind of, what's the wall finish, but it's more about what is really your home offering. Are there, because sustainability is also something that people seek. Branded residences for me is a facility which is really looked after, offers a global lifestyle, is completely hassle-free. I think the decision, to my mind, should be taken by, again, the same rule follows: location, which is most important, followed by who the developer is, what is the track record, are you going to get the end product, will they be able to manage the project,
giving you what they promised.
Yes, whatever time of the year you buy, just make sure that you are following your checklist and not overlooking in the at the back of some freebies being offered by the developer. Money to me is a byproduct. If you're doing well, wherever you are, wherever you do well,
you'll be paid well. Yeah. Do you think women have advantage in real estate, especially when it comes to transaction?
Women naturally are multitaskers.
Okay. वेलकम टू पॉडकास्ट बाय स्पेस क्रिएटर्स। आज का पॉडकास्ट बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है। आज पहली बार हमारे साथ एक इंटरनेशनल प्रॉपर्टी कंसल्टेंट है। ओके, सो वी हैव श्वेता जैन। शी इज़ मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर्स सेविल्स इंडिया रेजिडेंशियल सर्विसेज। अब सेविल्स एक 160 साल पुरानी कंपनी है, यूके बेस्ड, एंड दे हैव 700 एम्प्लॉयज़ इन इंडिया इटसेल्फ। और ये रेजिडेंशियल सर्विसेज भी करते हैं, ऑफिस सर्विसेज भी करते हैं, लैंड भी करते हैं, मैनेजमेंट सर्विसेज भी करते हैं, रियल एस्टेट में जो भी हो सकता है सब कुछ करते हैं। नाउ श्वेता ने 25 साल से यहाँ पे काम किया है। 6 साल सेविल्स में, उससे पहले 19 साल कुशमन एंड वेकफील्ड में। तो इनसे सीखने को बहुत कुछ है। इनकी इमेंस डीप नॉलेज रियल एस्टेट की हम लोगों को राइट डिसीजन लेने में बहुत हेल्प कर सकती है, वेदर जब हम बाइंग कर रहे हों या फिर हम अपना करियर बना रहे हों। एंड इन दिस पॉडकास्ट व्हाट यू विल हियर इज़ द इम्पॉर्टेंस ऑफ लुकिंग एट क्वालिटी ऑफ द हाउसेस। ठीक है, सिर्फ ऑफर से घर ना खरीदें, क्वालिटी में क्या क्या देखें। In this podcast, you will also get to know that how RERA has helped real estate in India. And you will also see how real estate has evolved. And career advice तो हम हर बार देते ही हैं, वो भी आपको बहुत अच्छी तरह से मिलेगी इस podcast में. So let's welcome highly experienced Shveta Jain. Welcome, Shveta.
Thank you, Vipin. It's a pleasure to be here. And you've said a lot. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to share some relevant insights with you and our audience.
I'm sure, almost 30 years in the industry. So, Shweta, 1997 is when you started your journey with real estate.
Right.
At that time, we weren't an organized industry. And with your background, what made you choose real estate?
It's actually quite interesting. Real estate did not happen to me by design.
Okay.
I used to be in a completely different sector. I had graduated in Russian literature.
Wow.
And that is what I was pursuing. And I happened to meet someone who was a part of my first organization, which is CBRE.
Okay.
And she invited me to come and meet her, and she said there could be a potential role. Why would you be interested? At that point in time, I wasn't really very clear about what the role entailed. But then she invited, I went and met her. I got to some level, I got excited. I was curious to find out what it is about, and I joined CBRE. A month down the line, it really wasn't something which I was able to bite. And I went back to her saying, I don't think I can do this. She said,
what was your role at that time?
So I had actually joined the residential team.
Okay.
And so CBRE is a globally acclaimed real estate firm. And they had a residential brokerage business, and that is what I had joined.
Okay.
And so after a month, I went back to her again and I said, I don't think this is my cup of tea.
Okay.
So she said, no, just stay for another month and then we'll see. And as luck would have it, I, closed some transactions in that month. And from then to now, so I think it's about 25 years.
25 years.
So CBRE took me to Cushman Wakefield, where I spent about 18 and a half years.
Okay.
So I started by setting up the business for them in NCR, and then over a period of time grew to a national level, and then took over the business as the business head.
Yeah.
And then that was my 18-year journey with them, which was again very gratifying, and I think I had a very good time. And then from 5 years back, I joined Savills to lead the residential business for them.
Yeah, and Pan India.
Pan India, yes.
Now tell me one thing: did that person tell you what did she see in you when she hired you for the first time?
Well, I think residential business is a lot about personal interactions. It is about how you're able to connect with clients. It's about, do you really understand and are you able to empathize with people? So I think that's where she thought my background there was some kind of a fitment. And it's also everyone, sales need not necessarily be done by just aggression.
Okay.
You could underplay the aggression, and if it's a client related business, then as long as you're able to understand the client, I think that's really, in my view, what's required. So I think the fact that I wasn't overtly aggressive also, she did think about it, but then she said that maybe that's really what we need right now.
Wow.
So that's and I think it worked.
And you maintained it this way throughout the years?
Well, I have I have been very hands-on in general with my work. At whatever sort of level I have operated, I have just tried to ensure that I have pulse of
everything that is
the
going
business,
on.
yes. Yeah. So I think that definitely helps. And like I said, you don't need to be overtly aggressive. There is this little misconception on sales that people need to
especially
be
real estate sales.
Correct. But I don't think that's really required. And I can talk about myself that the fact that I have never pushed people beyond a point, whether it's clients or teams or other people. And I think it works. I mean, we've... it's really about understanding people. Even with teams, if you are able to really understand what they are seeking, from their respective roles and careers, and then if you're able to really compose the role in that fashion and direct them in that manner, I think it works. So I think it is a little bit of a misnomer that
a lot of people will breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, today morning my team only will breathe a sigh of relief. Today morning I was telling them that you need to be aggressive and you got to push the client no matter what it happens like that. But this is also another way of and how supportive were your family at that time when you...
Well, to be honest, my father was not very happy with the decision.
Okay. What did he say?
And he did think that I may be perhaps wasting my life if I was to take real estate. I was to take real estate as a career. He did change his view though later on. But But those were the times when the real estate industry was still very, very fragmented. And people did not understand the concept of international property consultants. It was very difficult to make them understand the entire value proposition of.
So they used to think that a local person is better off doing.
That would be one, and real estate per se had not really got that. Was not seen as a choice of profession. It wasn't really a preferred choice for most people. And naturally, we are talking about times when parents wanted more technical careers for their kids to adopt. And in my case, because I had graduated, in fact, rather post-graduated in a language, so my father wanted me to pursue the same profession. But that aside, I think it is, things have changed. We see a lot of youngsters now wanting to be a part of the sector. And when I now actually look at this generation, I feel that we were the ones who actually went through the hardships. They have a lot which is coming on the platter for them. And that's nice.
Yeah, they have the systems, they have the, I think, acceptability, and the entire scope of real estate has changed.
Right.
It is one of the most sought after industries right now.
Right.
Now, tell me one thing. International property consultants. Now, say something about this. What do they do, and how do we differentiate them with normal brokerages in the country?
Right. See, let me first little bit talk to you about Savills. Yeah. So we are a leading global real estate consulting firm. We originated in 1855.
1855. Wow.
Yes, about 160 years, more than 160 years now. And we are headquartered in UK and listed on London Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
So we advise and transact across asset classes, so which would include office, residential, land, warehousing, industrial.
All over the world. How many countries?
So we have about 700 offices.
Wow.
And we are in India. We started in 2018 December. Ever since then, we are now a eight city operations. Eight city operations in India with about 770 odd people.
Yeah.
So that's been really our growth trajectory over the last 5 years, and this is.
And you were one of the first people.
Yes, I was one of the first ones to join Savills, and so this we are talking about with the 2-year COVID period. So now again, similarly in India, we follow our service offerings span across all asset classes, and this is to do with both advisory and brokerage. And the non-transactional service lines also include valuation and project management. And then there are brokerage service lines, which are, office leasing, residential brokerage, retail, land and industrial, warehousing, and capital markets. So we work with investors, developers, end customers, and, across, like I said, across the Yeah. So now on your question in terms of what is really the difference between a global real estate firm versus a local agency, I think, I wouldn't say it's not really so much about the difference. It's really about the fact that an international property consultant, so it starts from being hyper-local to being national and then to being global. Now, when we look at local agencies, they could be hyper-local.
Mostly hyper-local.
They may not be national and they may not be global. Now, I think that's where the difference comes in.
Okay.
That we have the domain knowledge, the domain expertise,
exposure,
the domain expertise, the connect. Then we have the national dominance, and then we also have the global stature. Yeah. So one is able to conduct business seamlessly and navigate through the complexities because you have the domain knowledge.
Correct.
And then also conduct the business transparently because you have the global stature and the reputation
more at risk
to look after. So I think it's an excellent blend, I would say, of, being both local in nature and then at the same time being global in stature.
Yeah.
So that is, I would say, is really the core proposition of IPCs and for Savills, because residential is a very prominent business offering for Savills. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to actually join Savills, because they have a globally integrated service offering. So there are about 1,000 people who work for the residential business.
Wow.
And
globally,
yes. And naturally, it's a source of big pride for a professional like me to join a firm like Savills, because the legacy speaks for itself. So it's a 160-year-old legacy. Yeah.
Now, tell me one thing: which is your biggest revenue earner in India across different verticals?
Well, so. We are like I said, we are a 5-year-old business, and transactions traditionally, the transaction businesses traditionally, for most IPCs are revenue churners. But alongside, we also have a very thriving project management business.
Okay.
So I would not be able to comment on which
that.
is, but I would say that transaction businesses and all also
are
the
always,
non-trans,
always bigger.
Yeah, so that's how it is. But yes, for us, all our transaction businesses and the project management and the valuation business, these are our key service lines, and all these businesses are.
So when I'm asking you a question, I'm asking not only to a professional with a 30-year experience, but I'm asking to somebody with a 160-year legacy as well.
Right.
Because it does make a difference.
Right.
When you have that kind of exposure, and I'm sure you must be interacting with all the other managing directors worldwide.
Right.
So it does make a big difference.
Correct.
Now, tell me one thing.
I'll just add to what I was saying, that it's not only a source of pride for the employees to work for a firm like Savills. It's also a source of pride for our customers and all our third-party vendors and all the people who we are touching, So I think that's where a little bit of difference may come in for a local agency versus a global agency. I mean, just to answer your question a little more sort of precisely.
My son was very happy when the first time he transacted with Savills, and he was very happy with the way the entire transaction also went.
Right.
Now, one question, that what are the advantages for first home buyers, first time when they go in and they take on board a broker or an agent? What is the advantage do they have rather than just going and doing it themselves?
See, I think that why are brokers needed in the first place? So if we today look at the landscape of residential real estate in India, while yes, some level of consolidation has happened, there is access and availability of information to people, but yet I still find that if I was not from the real estate sector and I was to look at and I'm a first home buyer, I would not really know where to start from. And for me, that's a great starting point. Getting in touch with a reliable source. And that source, I'm not saying who that source can be. I mean, the source can be anyone, but getting in touch with a reliable source, getting your first cut information on them, because it is still a very complex process. Procuring a property in India, buying a property in India is still a very complex process. And the complexities could be multifold. I mean, especially when you're trying to look at something which is not from the primary market, and it could be a second-hand property. And then naturally the complexity is related to title, depending on the city you are buying and the micro market you are buying. So I think that's a great, like I said, it's a great starting point to get in touch with a broker. And then the second thing I think where the broker can be immensely helpful is hand-holding the client and making the right choices. So the choices will perhaps be governed by convenience and comfort, and then lifestyle, which is now very, very important for people. The neighborhood you want to be in, and the address, which makes a lot of difference, because sometimes I find people just being very, very consumed by the concept of which address they want. But that address may be perceptionally maybe a great address, but it may not have a long-term, the long-term prospects may not be so sound. So I think that's where an agent
can come and give advice.
Come and advise. And then lastly, I think it's the entire, so like I said, the hand-holding to start with, getting your first-hand information, and then helping you choose a property, and then lastly, I would say just stitching the deal. I mean, because whether it's a developer or it's an individual you're buying from, yes, if it's a developer, it's a little more, it's easier for a buyer, but if it's an individual, then there could be just so many other level of
the human angles.
Yes. So I think that's where a broker can play a very relevant role.
I think it is the human angle,
right,
which is not that easy to handle, and sometimes the buyer and seller cannot say things directly.
Right.
They need somebody in the middle.
Correct. I mean, if you look at markets like developed markets, say for example in US, where you have central repository of listings, and people can actually, buyers can go there and and do their filtering of options, and even there people seek agents, because like you said, I mean, it is important that there is the human intervention is
somebody
required.
Can speak on your behalf.
Yes, exactly. So I think from that point of view, this is where I would say a broker can add value. In fact, tremendous value. It's still a very underrated. It's a very underrated scope.
It's still an underrated scope. That was music to my ears. That means we still have a long way to go.
Right.
And now another thing, the way the market, especially in India, has behaved over the last 3 years. I know we all and everybody has thrived in this market. But what are the leading trends which are there currently, and what do you see in the coming future? Because you guys do a lot of research as well.
Right. See, a lot has changed post-COVID, and it's really essentially around now how people want to live. So the some of the changes that we witness is not really coming from any macroeconomic sort of a shift, but it's more about how people now want to live their lives.
Okay.
And as a result of which, some small things I'll just sort of refer to. So for example, clearly there is a preference for bigger sized homes. So earlier, people would be, I mean, as a first home, they would be happier starting with a two bedroom. I mean, one bedroom concept doesn't exist, at least in North India, but a two bedroom would work. But now there is a conscious sort of, by design, people want to look at a 3-bedroom, which can allow them some space for, if should the need arise, allow for some space to work out of the 3rd bedroom or a study. That's one thing. Secondly, I think there is, once again, there is some level of interest and traction for second homes, which is mainly to do with places where you can just go and unwind once in a month.
You
or
can
over
call
a
it
weekend, weekend
home.
homes or holiday homes, leisure homes, and whatever we may want to call it. But these are essentially pads where maybe you can also earn some income out of it, and at the same time you can use it, as and when you wish to use it. And this could be farmhouses to country homes to maybe homes in the hills or in any beach locations, which is, we all know about how Goa is going right now. So I think that's the second thing which I would say, as far as residential is concerned, that's one of the trends that we've seen. And thirdly, I would also say that people are now seeking diversification, and holiday homes, branching out in holiday homes is a part of that. But besides that, also looking at homes outside the country.
Okay.
And these decisions are essentially led by it could be one reason could be diversification. The other reason could be that the kids may be going out to study, and then you would refer to, and the lifestyle, stature, a sort of a statement to make, so, but all of this put together, I think these are some of the new trends that we see. Going forward, I feel what is going to really be the mainstay, in my view, is people would continue to seek quality. Now quality is not only about what kind of flooring and what kind of, what's the wall finish, but it's more about what is really your home offering? Are there, because sustainability is also something that people seek, and are the buildings going to really provide for your future needs? Is your well-being looked after? Is the community going to be of like-minded people? So I think the needs and the desires or the needs of of people are changing. I think also what people seek is really quality. So it's about, say for example, if they decide to go and buy an under construction home, they want to be serviced well. They want to be heard. They don't want to feel like a second citizen, which used to be the case earlier. And these kind of requests are more and more prominent now, because there are times when we've seen clients are not dealt with properly. So whether it is the agency or the developer or the landlord, and that is not something that people are okay with now. So quality and the experience is now across board.
Okay.
It's about the entire value chain, starting from the time you decide to go ahead and buy the property and how you are dealt with, and then the final product. And the product is also about, like I said, it's not about the quality of the
flooring,
interiors. It is also really about what is the development going to offer. Is there sustainable practices which are being adopted? Is there a community that will really be there, and like-minded community, and so on and so forth?
But what we've noticed, at least in Gurgaon, North India, a lot of people are only, when they talk about quality, वो बात कर रहे हैं क्लब हाउस की.
Right.
क्लब हाउस इतने लाख फुट का, इतने हजार फुट का, इतने उसका, बट बियॉन्ड दैट कोई भी नहीं देख रहा. लाइक अकॉर्डिंग टू मी, वन ऑफ द वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स इज दैट हाउ मेनी अपार्टमेंट्स पर एकर.
Right.
This nobody's watching.
Right.
There are some places which are about 45 apartments an acre, and then there's some, I don't want to name it, but 75 apartments an acre. But what is the buyer looking at? वो quality में क्या देख रहे हैं?
So विपिन, मुझे एक चीज़ और भी लगती है कि जो the extraordinary amenities, जो अभी the ones that we are witnessing now in some of the luxury condos, they are still relatively new.
Okay.
Right? And I think people are enamored.
Okay.
People are enamored, and that is maybe just triggering their decision to buy.
Okay.
But I feel all of this will settle down with time. Because once people get used to these amenities, and then the concept, like you said, density, for example.
Density.
Because which is a very, for your true well-being, that's a very, very important. And I think you're right. Right now, that's not the focus.
देख ही नहीं रहा
The
कोई.
focus is more on what's the size of the clubhouse, what are the facilities there, can I go and talk about it in my friend circle, and so on and so forth.
Who's the architect, who's the designer.
Correct. But not to say that
not to take this away.
Not to say that the developments which have all the extra amenities and are really providing for, so to say, the luxury facilities, they may not be the best. Some of them are very good. Some of them are very good, and definitely they are showing the way to people in terms of new lifestyle. However, like I said, I think yes, there is an element of being enamored. People do get enamored. There is a little bit of a herd mentality. So if one known person has bought in a particular development, then we will find many others following. But that's I think that's also, we are transitioning. We are transitioning from being a sort of the markets were more mid-income focused versus now premium to luxury, and that's really what we've seen post-COVID.
And is that so only in Gurgaon or in other cities as well?
This is a pan-India phenomena. Pan-India phenomena. It's not. Maybe North India culturally is a little different. It's a little more flamboyant. The focus is a lot more on your sort of outside finishes. But I would say it's pretty much a pan-India phenomena.
Is it only in the tier 1 cities, or is it so in tier 2 as well? Are they spending the same way, or?
I would say tier 1 and tier 2 both.
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 Okay.
And there is a clear shift even in tier 2 cities, say for example, Lucknow, Amritsar, Ahmedabad, where people are now giving up on bungalow living and
they want to
moving
go to
into
high-rise.
apartments. And simply because, they're seeking convenience, it's nuclear family setups, you want security, you want facilities for the children and so on and so forth. So I would say this is pretty much across tier 1 and tier 2.
But again, second home, they again seek a bungalow or a farmhouse.
Second home, yes. Second home, especially people in the West, in Mumbai. If they're looking at second homes, then villa options are preferred. In fact, we've seen the same in Goa as well.
Yeah.
So, and that's also because, if you're moving out of the city and, you just want a little more space, and you want greenery, and you want a pool, and you want the works. So which is really possible in a villa. But yeah, you see, it's more about gated versus a villa or an apartment. So even if there are gated villa communities in the city, people will prefer that.
Okay.
Because you just want the conveniences of managed facilities is what I would say. And that's where even branded residences now, I feel, will be the next big thing in India.
It was my next question to you. Yeah. Say something about branded residences and how do you see it evolving in India? Because we haven't seen yet a branded residence. Maybe Bombay has Ritz-Carlton.
See, branded, no. So we have Four Seasons in Bangalore.
Yeah.
Then we have Ritz-Carlton residences, which are being done by the Oberois in Bombay. Yeah. Then we'll have, the Grand Hyatt residences in Gurgaon.
Westin, we're going to have Westin as well.
Yeah, so there are a few. See, branded residences up till now in India, I think, so branded residences could be hospitality operator led, or it could be just a sort of an alliance with any brand. It could be lifestyle brand or a interior designer.
The way it is in Dubai.
So for example, in Pune we have a development called U Pune.
Okay.
Then we have Trump Towers in Kalyani Nagar, which were done by the Churadias. Yeah. So now I think branded residences for me is a facility which is really looked after, offers a global lifestyle, is completely hassle-free, and can really offer you the experience so it's like, how you have, the Amman, I don't know if you've heard of Amman Junkies.
Yes, I have.
So whichever part of the world you go, you get the same experience.
Yeah.
So if today I'm living in Marriott residences in India or in Thailand or in London,
it's the same.
My experience should be the same. So I think that is really how a branded residences culture will evolve. And why would people see value in branded residences is because there is a premium which one has to pay. Right, first to buy the residence, and then also your maintenance charges, which are a little higher than what otherwise you would pay. Like I said, it comes to convenience.
But what about appreciation, abroad? Because we still don't have that much of I would say, proof of concept in India. But how is it abroad?
Overseas, it's a growing segment.
And there's a price difference as well?
There is a price difference. There are multiple hospitality operators. For example, recently I was in London and I went and saw something which is actually co-owned by Raffles.
Okay.
And this is a Hindu Jaws project. And so overseas, whether it's US, whether it's London, Singapore, Thailand, across some of these markets, we've seen branded residences. Dubai is crazy. Dubai, yeah. So
Cavalli,
and they're all
Armani, everything.
Yes, and they're all like doing very well. I mean, they are all, and interestingly, most of these developments see very high interest from international buyers.
Okay.
More NRI than the domestic buyers. Not NRIs alone, but international buyers.
Because they have experienced it overseas.
Right.
Okay. I'm asking this question from the perspective of an investor. If today they are getting something at say 20,000 rupees a square feet,
right,
and a branded residence is say at 25,000 a square feet, which is say about 25% of a difference.
Right.
Will they make that much amount of appreciation once both the projects are ready?
Vipin, we see non-branded residences also.
Doing very well.
We see non-branded. We can see two projects in the same location, both non-branded in a manner of speaking, but having a difference of 20-25%, right? We know that.
Yes.
And that's true for all markets.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the price appreciation is going to be governed by
The branded.
yes.
Okay.
It's not. It's overall quality of the project.
Okay.
It's the quality of the developer. It's the community which is finally going to come up, and of course, it is the operator which is finally going to manage, because the end product, the management of the end product, has to be done rightly, because that's the premise of branded residences. So, and I don't think people should be really,
Lured by.
taking their decisions based on whether it's branded or non-branded. I think the decision, to my mind, should be taken by, again, the same rule follows: location, which is most important, followed by who the developer is, what is the track record, are you going to get the end product, will they be able to manage the project,
giving you what they promised.
Yes. And then naturally your own budgeting, because I see people sometimes going out of their pocket just because they feel
This one is a
which I don't think in the long term plays out well. So take the decision which is be well informed, and branded or non-branded. I mean, it's a matter of choice. I would say.
Now, tell me one thing. There's a lot of craze for people having farmhouses.
Right.
Okay. You guys must be transacting in farmhouses as well.
Right.
But do you think there's any place around Delhi NCR where we're going to see farmhouses and maybe they develop as a first home? The way it is maybe in UK where people live.
Delhi has a lot of people
Farmhouses,
live out of
yes.
farmhouses. These are not.
But they are way above only for the top class, right?
Right, because we were expecting the policy to come in Delhi, and that would have then triggered some of the gated communities, but which hasn't happened now. It's like now 10 years delayed, and we don't know when it is going to happen. But yeah, it is a matter of more about policy. So if the policy comes in, I think if your question is on demand, demand is there. Demand is there. First, whether as the primary home or as a second home,
there is demand.
Should there be gated farmhouse communities, I think they would they would not stay. I mean, they would go.
Yeah.
So
now we are closing to Diwali.
Right.
And everybody says that this festive season has a different way that the buyers बड़े differently देखना शुरू हो जाते हैं.
Right.
What is your view on it?
See, in my view, there are two things. One, definitely it is a conducive time for buyers. Culturally also, it's one of those auspicious
times
tenure, and that does help in the decision making for a buyer. There are times when people start thinking about buying, and then they say, "Chalo, we'll do it around the Navratras, the Shera, and the Diwali," and that's the time when you really indulge in new purchases and so on and so forth. Now, real estate is a very big ticket investment, so it obviously cannot be seen with the same lens as other investments. So I also firmly believe that these festivals, these festivities, they come in by Q3 end or beginning of Q4. And that's the time when people have sort of, it's just from a calendar point of view also, it just fits in. So, so it's a combination.
They are ready to कि हमने इतने पैसे बना लिए हम लगा सकते हैं.
So I think it's a combination of both. Developers take advantage of it. For them also, it's once in a year they want to come up with some exciting offers, and then they choose this time to announce those offers. So I think a combination of what the developers and it's also about how they create the excitement around the offers. So I think there is a little bit of, I would say, some level of excitement that's created by the developers, some level of planning which comes in by the buyers, given the whole auspicious tenure. And the third thing I would say is, which I believe in it more than anything else, is the fact that, it's like Q3 and then Q4 beginning calendar, in the calendar. So, people are saying now we are ready to really take our decision. So all combined together, but yes, the demand
is much higher.
is, I would not say the demand, but I would say that the decision making does get
The closures happen
closures are more during this.
Anything that a home buyer should take care of during the season while buying a home?
So again, I think it's not really one should not get lured by the offers which are, because some of the offers may be genuine offers, some could be just to, just to sort of create that excitement. So I think it's important to ratify what you are buying and just make sure that the due diligence in whatever form or manner needs to be done is done on the developer, on the title, and other structural due diligence and so on and so forth. So there I don't think one should really lose their mind because some offer is there or because it's an auspicious season. So, I would say whatever time of the year you buy, just make sure that you are following your checklist and not overlooking in the, at the back of some, freebies being offered by the developer, because those I think really don't matter, because it's a very, very large, it's like you're making an investment for a lifetime and you need to be careful.
I've seen people choose a home worth 5 crores because they were getting a gold coin.
Yes,
I'm not a big fan of
correct.
any of the offers.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of offers, especially real estate. I'm not a big fan. For me, it's very simple.
Right.
If the price of that property
Correct.
is the price of the property over there,
Right.
is when you should buy.
Correct. Correct.
Both in commercial, residential, these a great, I believe a great product will never have an offer.
Right. No, well, and I may not agree with that, but an offer can be there, but the offer is to maybe it can expedite your decision. It can expedite your decision making. But like I said, you have to make sure that all your checks and balances are in place, and then following that, the decision can.
And I think that's where a role of a professional brokerage
advisor comes in.
Correct.
Correct.
That is what. Now, how has RERA made a big difference to real estate, or the mindset of home buyers, or has it put any checks on the developers?
So it was a very trust deficit market. We all know that. I mean, many have burned their hands, we saw a very actually prolonged phase of no activity and especially in NCR. So I think RERA has definitely brought in some level of confidence, some level I'm saying, for the consumer. And I would say it's not only for the good of the consumer, it is also benefiting the developers because now there are timely payments, because while we keep talking about consumers being the aggrieved party, which has been the case, but the fact of the matter is there are times when buyers will also not make good of the payments and things like that. So I think it's a two-way street. And definitely it is led to increased confidence. People feel more secure. And that has helped the market overall. Otherwise, there was we did see for many years that the activity in the under construction space was suffering because people only wanted to look at ready to move in properties. And I think the interest in under construction properties has resumed, and one of the reasons I would say is RERA.
Now, a very important question. Today's generation mostly look at कि अगर हमारे को ग्रोथ चाहिए अपने करियर में, हम हर 2 साल में 3 साल में अगर चेंज करते रहें, वी विल गेट अ बेटर डेजिग्नेशन, वी विल गेट अ बेटर इंक्रीमेंट, क्योंकि इफ़ वी स्टे एट वन प्लेस हमारा तो 10% ही बढ़ेगा और 12% बढ़ेगा. You stayed with Cushman Wakefield for about 19 years, right? What made you stick on for so long?
Vipin, I think, it's not that in my generation we've not seen people moving.
Doing that.
Right? Moving a lot. So I won't say that it only holds true for the younger generation. Yes, with the younger generation, they're a little more, their risk-taking capacity may be a little higher. So yes, so they may just take these decisions faster than anyone else. And I think most importantly, what I really told myself was that why would I want to move if I could really, so you create a vision for your career, and I said, why do I need to move for that? Why can't I really do
Get
all
it
of
over
that?
here only.
Do all of that here, as long as it gets supported, right?
Yeah.
So which happened. So I think honestly, it is really from person to person how they really look at their own journey. Impulsive decisions on moving just because someone has given me a feedback which I thought was not correct and things like that, which I see happening there is very little patience that this generation has, and they will just maybe some hard feedback, maybe like, really, don't I know what I'm... So I think those are areas where I would say that people just need to just push back a little bit and say that, is it really, why are we moving?
Yeah.
Is there a real reason for us to move? Is it for growth? Money to me is a byproduct. I mean, if you're doing well, wherever you are, wherever you do well, money
You'll
will,
be paid
money
well,
will
yeah.
happen. So I don't think that should essentially should be the driver. The driver should be, what are the opportunities that you would get, and are you truly being acknowledged for the work that you're doing? I think that is, to me, is what is paramount.
And
Yes.
one more thing. Do you think women have advantage in real estate, especially when it comes to transactions?
Women naturally are multitaskers,
Okay.
right? So that's just a very natural flair, I would say, for women. And also, they are nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel a transaction has to be nurtured.
I
So for me, I mean, if you were to ask me, I mean, because I started my career, I used to do transactions, which obviously for many years now I don't do, but the fact is that, I think that's really what worked, because you just have to be yourself. You don't have to, like I said, in sales, you don't need to be necessarily overtly aggressive. You just have to be yourself. And as long as you have the client's interest
in mind.
in mind, I think everything falls in place, because people do seek genuine people, I mean, they want to be genuinely advised. Deals will happen. Deals do happen. I mean, I feel if people are working hard, I mean, I see my team, I mean, people, all the, in my team, all the youngsters, everyone, experienced, inexperienced,
They're working
people
hard.
who are working hard are able to do deals. So as long as you have, I mean, you are able to, like I said, you're able to keep the client's interest in the forefront. Transactions will happen, and like I said, women are just born nurturers, and if they are themselves, that helps.
Somehow I was expecting this response from you, because given you've been in this industry, I'm sure you must have seen it, because I also have a few women, and what I see in them when they are transacting, and I look at them and I was like, I can't do that. They are so great with clients, and they are patient with them, and they can empathize.
Right.
And that really is a huge advantage which I think women have.
Right.
Shveta, one very important question. With your about 30 odd years of experience, what is your career advice to somebody who's just starting new? कोई अभी नया start कर रहा है, तो आप क्या advice देंगे for them also to last 30 years and to reach where you have currently?
So, Vipin, I think it's a very, very promising sector.
Okay.
If we look at the contribution towards GTB, the employment that it creates, the way it is emerging and evolving, and there are multiple segments in which, within real estate also, in which the career could be, for any youngsters or someone who's starting their career could be made, is So there are, one could work with a developer, one could work with an agency, one could work with a project management setup. So you could pursue sales, marketing, project management, interior designing, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple
fields.
There are multiple elements within real estate as per one's liking and choice. And I would completely encourage people to look at real estate seriously. One thing that I would say is that a lot gets learned while you're on the job.
Okay.
So my earnest sort of recommendation would be that be coachable. Because I think that's really where your main learning comes into play. Of course, there'll be, if it's a technical role, then there'll be technical. Yeah, so like I was saying, just coachable, be ready to learn and learn from your mistakes, learn from your peers, colleagues in the system you're working. And I think that really creates the path. Also, patience is one most important thing, because real estate is still to some extent unstructured.
Okay.
So it can sometimes cause disappointments. I mean, especially in your early years of career, especially when people are coming from your grade A management institutes, and then they seek structure. So that may be a little amiss in the beginning. So have the patience. Just sort of see yourself through those years. And yes, I think I would totally encourage people to
come in,
to look at real estate. Yeah.
Can you share with some example from your career, some incident where you became coachable and it helped you, or something around patience?
So, I would say industry-led challenges were there. So some were industry-led challenges, right? Which is because when I joined, those were really the very, very early,
initial days,
very, very early years. And so at that point, there was no concept of a sort of a organized real estate sector. So like I, in the beginning also had said, to just make people understand per se in terms of who we are, what we do, the whole concept around what is really the value proposition. So that by itself used to be a challenge. And then the other thing is that because you're a multinational firm and you're sort of really governed by, there are sort of compliances in terms of, and the way business used to happen, the way transactions used to happen. So sometimes we would find ourselves in a bit of a situation thinking that like I said, you need to be local. At the same time, you need to be global. So I think creating that balance, you used to be a little difficult. And then the other thing that I would say is that, in the early years when you sort of, because the talent is not trained, right? So when you are trying to really build a business and hire people and then train them, so because the talent is not trained. So on the residential side, getting good talent always used to be a challenge. So I think if you ask me, these have been my 2 pain points.
So who did you go to at that time?
So as far as talent is concerned, I mean, we've pretty much hired people who've not have come with real estate backgrounds, and then you just groom and mentor them and bring them induct them in the role. On the industry-led challenges that I spoke about, I mean, that we just weathered through the years, because there was little that you could do. But yes, being on a sort of a platform and with a brand, it helps, and that's maybe one of the reasons why, like I said, I stayed
for so long
through my entire professional career with. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Shveta.
Thank you.
I'm sure this conversation will be very useful for somebody who's whether making a career, and very useful for a lot of investors who will now understand that quality is the key, service is the key, which we have to look at.
Right.
Thank you. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And wish to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All our brokers have given exams and passed this thing.
I think that is the best thing.